So is it important to learn the notes on the fretboard? That is the question that we will be posing today, and I'm going to give you that answer very quickly in just a matter of seconds. But I'd like to thank one of my subscribers, Raoumon, or Raoumon, however you pronounce it. I honestly have no idea. My French is absolutely terrible. I went to France one time, and I got a pretty funny story. I asked for a croissant, and the guy looked at me and he said, "Croissant?" And he actually gave me that look too. So I get back, I'm like, "Yeah, I want a croissant." He's like, "Croissant?" I tried saying it like him. I'm like, "Croissant?" And we just went back and forth. And long story short, I never got the croissant. I think I wound up ordering something else. But he must have smelled it on me. He must have said, "This silly American wants to come in here, get my baked goods easily." Puh, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to go back and forth with that crazy croissantness. So, is it important to learn the notes on the fretboard? Let's get to the answer. It's a resounding yes, of course, 100%. If it's not, then why you subscribe to this channel? That's what I don't understand. I talk about notes all the time with all these videos. And if you're new to the channel, I do a whole series of analysis on different songs, particularly Dream Theater, Alice in Chains. I did some Metallica. I hope to grow it as time goes on, but that's sort of the purpose. So of course, the notes are critically important to at least understand what I'm doing. And I think in a lot of ways improve your musicianship 100 million fold, right? Just by learning that simple concept, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Just the ABCs of music. So I want to preface this by saying that there are exceptions and there's the rule. So in this video, I'm going to cater to the rule, to what the average Joe would get out of learning the notes on the fretboard. I'm not talking about the savant or the crazy guy with insane creative abilities just out of the gate. Can't form a sentence, can't go to the bank and do anything normal, can't go to the grocery stores without dropping everything all over the place, but they could compose something that's amazing, or they're incredible songwriters, but they can't do anything, normal in their lives. That's not who I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the regular ass dude at home, or dudette, that works at the Meineke, comes home and plays some music to, kind of unwind, and they want to get better. Well, this is one of the ways to get better. That's why it's important. Not just the only reason, there's plenty of reasons. And I understand that artists such as, like the Ramones, the Sex Pistols, all the punk rock people, Nirvana, blah, 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 they almost feigned ignorance to the idea. And in some cases, I think they faked it. I think a lot of those artists actually did understand this concept, but never really let on to it. They were all very mischievous people, of course. But they at least knew, maybe not all the notes on the fretboard, but at least knew the E and the A string enough to get them around with their silly power chords going all over the place. But the notes on the fretboard are indeed very important. And the first reason being is that the musical alphabet, just as a fundamental basis, makes everything so much easier to understand. It makes music make sense. Instead of just being this random jumble of notes, you are now putting a system to it. And you have 7 notes, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 7 letters and 12 tones. That's it. You only have to know 12 things. 7 letters with sharps and flats in between, which equals 12 different ideas. Instead, if you're on the guitar, right? I got like, what, 20 frets on this guitar? 20 times 6? That's 120 notes as opposed to 12. So what do you think is easier to experience or understand? The 12 tones or the 120 that exist as this amorphous and nebulous string of sounds? Which one? Just learn the notes on the fretboard. That's all it takes. Learn the musical alphabet, right? Like I said, 120 things versus 12 things. What is easier to memorize? Now, number 2 is that you're going to know what key you're in. Okay? Instead of being in the key of 3 or the 3rd fret, you're going to be in the key of G. Okay? Now that makes a lot more sense musically. Look, if you're in a band with a bunch of guitar players, then okay, yeah, we're in the 3rd fret going, then we're going to the 6th fret. But what if you have a keyboardist in the room? What if you have a saxophonist? What if you have a trumpeter? All right? you're going to need to understand that these people don't have frets on their instruments. They deal with notes, strictly notes. And that's what you need to understand. They're going to be dealing with the key of G, not the key of 3, right? Or the key of ebony and ivory. That's like, oh, we're on the black keys over here, guitar player. Imagine a piano player telling that to you. I'm on the black key right here. You see that? And you're looking at it like, I'm playing a guitar, dude. Yeah, exactly. So you're going to be able to break down the barrier between different musicians as well by knowing what key you're in. So that's another reason, basically. And fret number consciousness, which I'm going to coin today, it only gets you so far. At a point, it becomes a vast jumble of notes, just like the 120 formless, shapeless ideas that we call pitches on the guitar. Every single fret, you're not going to be able to memorize it. You're going to get lost in a sea of liquidity, extreme pain and anguish from having to memorize 120 things. Don't do that. Number 3 is you won't get lost nearly as much. Let's say you're playing either on stage or in rehearsal, right? You're in the key of G minor, and you know that for a fact. But all the chords are going by real fast. And you completely lose your place. Alright, so the band's playing, you're playing a solo, and all of a sudden your mind just goes off onto all these different things. There's a pile of weasels out on my lawn, and they're trying to make my life pretty damn bad. Now, if I know where the root note is, I gotta find a G. I'll be able to do that even if I'm thinking thoughts that have nothing to do with the song. There's a bunch of garden gnomes. They're hammering the sand down to Pepto-Bismol. And guess what? I'm going to take them all, but I got to find a G because I'm playing on stage with a band. You understand what I'm saying? Even if you blank out completely on stage, you'll be able to find a G, and you'll find it anywhere as long as you can train yourself to find those notes. Now, of course, you should extrapolate it further. You should be able to find a G, a B flat, and a D, or even an F for that 7th. Any note within the major or minor chord at any given time. That'll help you from getting lost, right? Even if you have no idea where you're supposed to be, just understand you're in the key of G, boom, G minor, I'm going to look for a B flat, and I'm going to resolve down to it. There's that B flat, that minor third. So, even if I'm going like this, oh man, like I'm 7 gin and tonics in at the holiday extravaganza, alright? But I gotta go on stage and play with my band. I should be able to find these notes completely unconsciously. That's how good you want to learn this. You want to be able to learn these notes so that if your mind completely blanks out, you're drunk off your ass, or you're just having a bad day, being able to find these notes will save your life completely. And that brings me to number 4. And the final reason as to why it's important to learn the notes on the fretboard. It's very simple. You don't want to be a silly Billy for ignoring something so simple. Why ignore something so simple? It's so easy. So easy. 7 notes, 12 tones, as opposed to 120 amorphous things, amorphous sounds that don't make any sense together until you realize how to understand the notes on the fretboard. You don't want to be a silly Billy, a silly goose, you don't want to be a mountain man with a big beard that can't chop down trees. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be completely lost in your life just because you didn't learn this very simple thing. And that's a reason to learn it. It's just so simple that I don't see any reason not to go in and learn it, in all honesty. And just take a look at yourself, right? You know, take a look in the mirror. Am I really gaining anything by ignoring the notes on the fretboard? The answer that your reflection is going to give you, depending on how strong your ego has a hold on your life, will be, of course it's important. And your life is going to be considerably worse if you do not learn these notes on the fretboard. One other thing I'm going to say as well is the whole idea of learning the notes on the fretboard somehow hinders creativity, that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, any amount of knowledge you receive can only expand your creativity. If you're already a creative person, you're not going to lose your creativity. That's just not going to happen. All right? So totally dispel that myth entirely. Just look at some of the incredible composers over time. You think Beethoven's creativity was inhibited by his knowledge of music? He's a musical genius, and he understood, obviously, the notes on everything at a point. So you're going to say that that guy was not creative? Johann Sebastian Bach, no creativity whatsoever, at all. I don't believe it for a second. And there's also another myth that you'll somehow be corrupted by this knowledge. It's just not true, people. It's just not true. So, hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will see you later. Please, learn the notes on the fretboard. For Pete's sake.